Morning. Here I am again in Falmouth at Ocean BMW, and today we're going to do a little talk about the 1000 XR. I haven't done one for a while, and I know they've made some changes to it, mostly internal changes, hard to talk about, but last time I rode this bike I found it quite hard because the vibration in the handlebars was really quite extreme, but apparently that's been changed now. So this is a 68 plate bike, registered bike. It's was registered just not so long ago. I think it's only got about 600 miles on the clock anyway, the bike. But I really do want to like this bike. I think it's an amazing thing. It's obviously up against the multistradas. And I've been on tours and with people who've got these, and they absolutely adore them. And they do look really sexy, don't they? I mean, it does look a nice bike. I do love the shape of this bike, mind. So it's 165 brake horsepower, and it's a bit of a beast, isn't it? 1000cc, 4-cylinder. It just looks really nice. So we'll get on and we'll have a chat about it in a minute. This bike sounds lovely. It really does sound nice. The engine's so throbby, and the exhaust sounds gorgeous on it. And again, it brings me back to this subject of people changing their exhaust to put aftermarket ones on. I can't really see the point of spending like 700 quid on an aftermarket exhaust when this one sounds so really nice anyway. So really nice. It doesn't even make good English, does it? It's a lovely light bike to ride this when you think of some of the monsters that are available. Unwieldy things, like we've tried the 1600 bagger and all kinds of things like that, and obviously RTs are quite heavy, and the GS's on the BMW range. And then when you look at some of the other bikes we've ridden, there's some brutes around, but this one looks big but is very light actually. Last time I rode this bike, I had a real problem with the vibration in the handlebars, and that was a bit of an issue for me because I only rode it about 12 miles and my hands were completely numb. So I know they took the bike away and they filled the handlebars up with lead shot to take the vibration out, and so far it seems to have done the trick. It's not as vibey as it used to be. It's got one of those odd headlights on it where it has what looks like a double headlight, but only one works. The other one is for the main beam, which I always find a little bit off-putting really. Perhaps it's the OCD side of me, likes to see things symmetrical. There are now, because this has been on the market a couple of years now, there's lots of spares you can buy for these, aftermarket spares, which is I find that a little bit frustrating as well. You know, it's like buying a car, isn't it? You ask a car, you know, what comes as standard, and they're like, oh, nothing comes as standard. We can put all that in for you. But some of it is, when you look at it and you go, yeah, that should be just added to the bike as normal, like a good horn. So still a standard dashboard. It's got the white rev counter. The speed in the digital side of it, the speed is in a little square on its own. And you have the time, your miles per gallon, the range, tank fuel level, all the stuff you would expect. I'm waving to the guy on the digger there because I think he's one of our subscribers, so if you're watching this you better get in contact and let us know who we are, because every time we pass him he waves at us. This bike is so light, so flicky and manoeuvrable, and I know people are going to say, why don't you thrash them and all the rest of it? Well, we don't, for the reasons we've explained previously. But it's a really, really nice bike. It wants to go. It's very smooth. The handlebars not vibrating as bad as they used to. I'm going to try and explain something which probably sounds a little bit weird now, but there's two definite sounds to this bike. One is the engine when you rev it, and obviously because you sat on top of that you can hear it, and the other one you can hear all the time is this burbling exhaust, which really does sound nice. And they're two sounds you can hear all the time you're riding. You know, some bikes they're like pretty sterile, you can't hear anything. Well, this has definitely got two different sounds that are ticking along all the time. And when you come off the throttle, the engine just gurgles a little bit, and as soon as you open it up a little bit, gurgles a bit more, and the sound changes just a little bit. It's really nice. But the engine has this, like, a lot of four cylinders are so smooth you can hardly hear them anyway. This is just like this. It's not quite a whine. I don't really know how to describe it because I'm not that articulate. Toby does all the descriptions. So it's got all the usual switchgear things that you would imagine on bikes now, on the BMW bikes in particular. It's got the jockey wheel for changing stuff when you go into the menu mode. It's got the different road modes for riding. This jockey wheel used to be problematic when they first came out. There were quite a few issues with them. I know I had 3 that had to be replaced on my bikes, and I think they've ironed it out now. And certainly when you have a problem, it seems like you just go back to the dealers and they don't quibble, they just change it. So there's obviously the problems that existed were known about. You feel like it really sort of snugly sits you in, and it's like it's an adventure type style type of sitting position if you want. So you've got a nice upright position, and the seat really does grip you. There's no movement around. You don't feel like you just sat on a big flat plank, which you do with some adventure bikes that don't actually have any moulding. So this seat is really comfortable, I find. You know, when you open the throttle on this, it really does go. It really does go. But it seems to be able to do it in all sorts of gear ranges. The suspension it's a bit hard. It's quite a short bike as well, or it has the visual appearance of being short. I'm not really sure how long it is, but it certainly feels you know, it reminds me of a Tracer or something like that. You know, the Tracer series in its design and that kind of stuff, but it's clearly up against the Multistradas, the big Ducatis. And you know, I think this probably would have it against a Ducati as far as I was concerned. And that's possibly a lot to do with the servicing costs of Ducatis. You know, people say, oh, you know, I think it's a 9,000 mile service or once a year, something like that, but the cost of them is tremendous. Normally when you ride a bike, you don't feel like you need to go up through the gears all the time, but I'm feeling on this one, it just seems natural to keep changing up and up and up. Find yourself in 5th gear when I know on other bikes I would only ever be in 3rd. I'm up in 4th now, doing 30 miles an hour. But the bike seems to appreciate that. It doesn't seem to be struggling. The bike is quite tall. We'll have a look to see if we can lower the seat height on it. I'm sure you can, and whether the suspension can be adjusted. But at the moment it feels a little bit on the high side. I'm only putting 1 foot down, but if you put 2 feet down it feels like you're being stretched a little bit. So for taller people that might be an issue. The quick shift on this is very nice. I'm hoping it's got a quick shift, otherwise I'm going to hand the bike back with a damaged gearbox. But the quick shift is very nice, very smooth up and down. It's almost like an automatic really, without the foot movement. It just seamlessly changes gear, which is quite nice. And here we are, I'm in 5th gear again. I don't know why I've got up to 5th gear, but it just feels like a natural thing to do. I'm doing 40 miles an hour. You can hear the engine, and you can hear this throb of the exhaust. Now the ride is quite hard, I find it, for me anyway. It's like when you're in a car and you've got these low profile tyres on it. That's what this feels like when it's riding along. It's a constant jabbering on the road, if that makes sense. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It feels okay actually, but it's just one of those things, you know. Again, usual mirrors, BMW mirrors that are fitted to it, which are actual fact quite good on some bikes. On this bike, could do with being moved out a little bit more towards the ends of the bars. Might make it a bit easier to see, because all I've got at the moment in both sides is my shoulder, which, you know, the mirrors are a good design. I find them not a problem, but just for goodness sake, put them so you can, you know, you might need to extend it by say 10mm or something like that, you know, 15mm, just so you can see properly out of them. I just used the horn there as a little squeak. Enough said about horns. Super responsive throttle. As soon as you just twitch a little bit, there's an instant output, you know, on the acceleration, which is takes a bit of getting used to. I must admit. This bike is fitted for GPS. I would imagine it'd be the Nav6 GPS. This hasn't got it. And if I'm just looking at the screen now, where it's actually would be fitted, it's quite a big thing, the Nav6, so it would block off quite a bit of that area there in front of me. Certainly block off the top of the rev counter. So the question is, do I like this bike more this time than I did when I was riding it last time? And I'll be honest, I do. Whether it's practical for touring, yes, it definitely is. Again, it's all the issues about chains and things like that, which, you know, we keep going over, but, you know, I can't be bothered cleaning chains. I know everyone goes, oh, you're a muppet. Well, that's the way it is. It's a really, really nice, smooth bike, and I know, because I've had people on tours with them, just how good they are. I mean, they're awesomely quick. 1000cc engine, and it's a very, very light bike. I mean, we're talking, you know, road bike weights really, as opposed to the bike, you know, that Toby's driving at the moment, the 1250 GSA, which is like a huge beast. So this is very nice. I love it. I do love it. And again, I'm pitching this up against the Multistradas. The 1200, I think there's a 900 or a 950, and the Super Enduros, which just get loads and loads of press written about them, and they're awesome bikes. But also, this is up against the Africa Twin, in my opinion. And I really love the Africa Twin, because again, I've always wanted one, and it's the chain issue for me, and the fact that I do so many miles. Do you know, this would be a contender against an Africa Twin if you were not going to be going off-road, because it clearly isn't an off-road bike. Look at this. We're talking about the S1000 XR, the BMW. We've reviewed it before, but this has had some changes done to it. Notably, the vibration has supposedly been cured in the handlebars. It hasn't. Might just be me, being an old boy, perhaps.
You're not that old.
I'm not at all. Thank you very much. That was a cue I wanted. Anyway.
Why do I fall into those?
Oh, I don't know. Love the bike. Really do think it's a nice bike. It's up against things like the Multistradas, the 900s, 950s,
Yeah.
1200s, Enduros. Okay. When you get to the Enduro side of it, it's completely out of it. This would be out of its depth. However, it's up against the Ducatis, definitely. It even looks like one.
Yeah, that's the first thing I I thought when I saw it, it looks like a multistrada, doesn't it? It's even got the same colours.
Yeah, it does. But you know, I also think it's against an Africa Twin. Forget the off-road thing, because most people won't be riding them off-road. Let's be honest about it. And if you had a choice between this and the Africa Twin, I think for touring, this might be a better bike.
And we've had some people on tours with us with the XRs, and they love them, don't they?
Absolutely love them. The only problem I would have with the XR is the really, really small, what do you call them? What do they use? They're the pannier things.
The panniers.
We'll call them panniers for this video.
Panniers.
Panniers. They're really small and a bit of an odd shape, and you can't get anything in them apart from your underpants. Unless if you're wearing big pants, you're going to struggle. So that's an issue for me. But you can get all sorts of different aftermarket stuff now because it's been on the market a few years. I do like it, even though it's got a chain.
I can feel a butt coming on.
Well, there is a but, because this bike it's got just under 500 miles on it, and so it's a cracking, brand new registered bike. 165 brake horsepower, 114 Newton megaton gigawatt, whatever. Loads of them, and it's a really nice bike. But I've got to show you this, because for a bike that's only 500 miles old, this is garbage.
This is the bottom of the engine
That's
casing.
the bottom of the engine casing.
How weird is that, though? That
Horrible,
should go
isn't it?
like that so quick.
Mottled really, really badly,
Yeah.
just at the top there. And also on the frame here, in there as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the camera will pick it up, but it's not. That's really not that great.
It's
is
like
it?
you know, you get the water mottling on the alley on a bit of aluminium. That's what it looks like, and that's a bit sad, really.
Yeah.
Because it's a lovely bike. When I was riding it, I was talking about there's two very distinctive sounds. You can hear the engine whirring away, and I can't really put a name to the sound of what the engine's doing, whether it's whirring, buzzing, vibing, whatever it is. It sounds gorgeous. But the exhaust is just there all the time, and when you open the throttle, it goes. I said at the very beginning, I don't understand why people buy aftermarket exhaust, spend 600-700 quid on one.
Yeah.
And this is gorgeous. It sounds really, really nice. And there's two distinctive sounds, like stereo, all the time when you're riding the bike. You've got the engine and the exhaust, and it just burbles and gurgles, and then it barks, and then it does all the. I'm sounding like a cliched critic of a bike.
Oh, that's so cliche.
Oh dear. Anyway, let's get back on. So, lovely bike. I think the screen would have to change if I was going to use it for touring.
It's quite a small screen, isn't it?
It does a bit. It does quite a bit of a keeping the wind off you. But I think if you're riding it for a long time, you might get a bit much. The engine itself and the casing, the tank, gives you quite a bit of protection. You know, for wet and things like that. But I like it. I did talk about these headlights.
Coming down to the headlights.
Going down to the headlights, you've got the running light, which is this LED thing.
Yeah.
And then you've got normal headlights.
Yeah.
Which is, why haven't you gone over to LEDs yet?
And that LED strip in the middle is very much like the 1200 RS, isn't it?
Yeah. Probably the same thing.
Probably
There we
part
go.
of the same family.
So, Brembo brakes, monstrous discs on the front, normal forks, big strong forks. When you stop, it's very obvious that there's a bit of dive on the, and I'm probably not used to that because it's like I ride a GS and there's very little dive on them. But you're very aware that when you come to a stop, it does dip a bit at the front.
Right.
And it's also quite a tall bike. And I've looked at the suspension. Maybe you can adjust the suspension. I'm not intelligent enough to work that out yet, but it does feel quite tall. So I would say it's a 1 foot down bike, which is not a problem.
Yeah.
But some people like to have both feet flat on the floor. It's a confidence issue, but you know. The seat, I've got to talk about the seat. I'll go the other side. Because I really like this seat.
That looks so comfy. I remember when I rode the older one, how it felt like you were in the bike.
There you go. I'll put my finger on my nose and go like that. That's exactly what it's like. It sucks you into it. You're up against the saddle, that's not a saddle, it's a tank.
Codpiece.
Like a cod piece. It's a cod piece of a bike. So you're up against the tank, but not uncomfortably so, and you're kept in by this at the back here. The seat feels quite hard when you get on it, but actually it's quite comfortable.
Perhaps that's because of the position it's putting you at.
I think so. It's a nice upright, like, you know, adventure type riding position, and that's part of it. The leg position is good. The knees don't feel overextended, overbent, or anything like that. I don't think the pillion's going to much like sitting on there at the back. However, I've seen people ride on smaller ones, so you know, it is what it is. Again, there's nice solid grips. This has got rails on it for luggage. You know, what can you say? It's a nice bike. But the engine rotting. Sorry, a little bit of mottling on the engine after 500 miles. That's not so good. Big hugger on it. Probably could be a bit bigger.
But they do put the hugger on it, which is, you know, an extra to a lot of the bikes that we've taken out, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it shows how ineffectual that a lot of these huggers are, because see the amount of dirt on there. It was a clean bike when we took it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, it possibly could come of it, because it's never going to be going off road.
No.
You know, it's just going to be.
And you're never going to get. You know, let's face it, we're never going to get a clean ride, are we? If
No,
the road's
God, no.
dirty, the bike is going to get dirty, isn't
What
it?
were those roads like we've just been riding on?
They were wonderful.
Yeah, of course.
Wonderful Cornish clean roads.
Yeah, just full of mud. But you know, dashboard is as is. I don't honestly like the white rev counter. I sold a car because it had white dials on it.
I find it quite strange that in 2019, where they're billing and putting on all the other bikes, the TFT and nice screens like on the RT, that we come back to such a basic screen for the XR.
Yeah, and also something as well, where the GPS would fit.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a nav 6.
No lockable.
Well, that's one issue. But when I was sitting on it, the nav 6 would probably take out the top few numbers of the rev counter.
I mean, you can adjust that, but not up and down, can you?
You can only adjust it like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, just like 10 mil more on there would have sorted that out, because it's not going to be hitting the windscreen.
Open the doors to Nippy Norman's, Wunderlich and all the others.
There
making
you
that
go.
10
No
mil
Wunderlich,
different
would
bar.
they be BMW? Anyway, the mirrors.
Yeah.
I like these mirrors
Yeah.
on all the other bikes, but on this bike you can see your shoulder in them quite a lot, and there's, you know, they're hard to adjust.
Because they are the same mirrors as on the GS, aren't they?
Exactly the same.
They're just not out far enough.
Now, whether that's just not been put out far enough on the handlebar, if you see there's a gap there, whether it could be adjusted, but it's attached to the handlebar bark buster thing, if you want. Other handguards are available, so it can't be moved. But it's a shame, really, because we're talking just moving it that far out would give you a better view of your mirror.
Yeah.
That's not a lot. Come on, BMW, you're better than that. Same switch clusters, the jockey wheel. Don't seem to have so many problems with these anymore now, like they did when they first came out. And if there is an issue, like I've said on the video, the dealers just change them over. It takes about 20 minutes. The throttle, awesomely responsive throttle. I mean, we've been coming down those lanes. Unfortunately, there is 40 miles an hour lanes wherever we were, but it's just, the bike wants to go. And the thing I noticed about this bike is that I think they're killing something in Greek. We're at the Greek Seal Sanctuary, by the way, for those of you who are interested in where we're doing this video. In places where I've been riding my bike or other bikes and it'd be in like third gear, I found myself in fifth gear and the bike's just poodling along. It's loving it, it's not a problem, really low revs. But when you've got it in a low gear and you open the throttle up, it's not a problem for it either. So it likes just cruising, which is quite nice. I found it very odd that I would be in a lower gear and suddenly I look down and go, oh, I'm in fifth. So do I like the bike? Love it. A couple of design issues with regards to the hugger and the thing, but we're just splitting hairs. I think the bike is awesome. Would I buy one against an Africa Twin? I think I'd be tempted. I don't know what the price is, but I think this might be a better bike. Obviously we go through the chain issue and all the rest of it.
Get any vibrations through the handlebars?
I did, but I have bad hands. You don't get hands like this, you know, for nothing. But I don't think it was any worse than any other bike I've ridden, so I think they might have killed that problem.
That's good. I know that they had issues first, didn't they? And then they kind of
the handlebars with lead shot.
Yeah, they did a lot to try and get rid of it.
Yeah, but it's a nice bike. It's a lovely bike,
and it looks nice as well. And it looks perhaps sportier than it is.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really like the red colour.
So it's strange because I quite like it, but every time I see one, the first thing comes into my head is that a multistrada?
There you go. That's yeah.
But is that a clever ploy from BMW?
Possibly. What? Like psychology and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Wow. I'd know what it was if I could spell it. Anyway, so I don't like the red, but they do it like a bluey colour, like a dark gunmetal-y blue, if that makes sense. Women would know exactly what we're talking about, because we'd be able to say it's muted as well and all that kind of stuff, but because they're good with colours. I do like the red, white and blue version of it, the Motorrad colours. It looks awesome in that colour scheme. But yeah, love the bike. Engine! Look at the engine!
We've looked at it.
Anyway, so if you like the video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to us. Toby does all that malarkey down there, and there'll be something down here with all the tank capacity and everything. But see you soon.